What's good, everybody? It's your boy No Excuse on today's Morning Rant. So, today we're going to talk about if social media has ruined celebrity status. So, let's get into it, man. Yeah, so I was thinking today or this morning about just how nothing really impresses women these days. And I had seen a clip of Usher at one of his concerts. And the clip was basically he brought a woman on stage, and he included her in his act, and she just seemed like you know unimpressed. Usually people like Usher, R. Kelly, Trey Songz. You know Now Chris Brown might still get a certain type of reception, but in general, R&B singers, like, they bring the ladies on stage. They sometimes they faint, they fall out. They're very excited. Very participatory in a lot of things. And so I think in like the clip, like Usher had like a reaction, like he just kind of like waved her off, like really, you know. But it made me think about all the things that I've paid attention to on social media on, how a lot of women are not impressed. I I'm going to always remember this example where it was a lady, she tried to, I guess, put Shaquille O'Neal on blast. He was in her DMs, and like she screenshotted the DMs and shared it. And she did it more for clout than anything. That's why I say now that, when it comes to men with money or resources or fame, now a lot of these women, they're not interested in those men for who they are, their resources. They're more interested in whatever clout they could get from that situation to build up their own platform, to bring more attention to themselves. That's why I made the stream, and you guys could check it out. It was called Tricking Clout versus Tricking Money. So that was a pretty deep topic. But yeah, about women not being impressed. You got somebody like Shaquille O'Neal, one of the, you know, wealthiest men that came out of, basketball from a NBA salary standpoint, and then what he's done outside the NBA. You would think that historically a man like that is like a dream come true, regardless of, how attractive you may feel like he is as a woman. He's a lick, you know. That's somebody, you would want to secure the bag with. And a lot of women unfortunately aren't impressed with somebody like that, you know. And you'll get the backlash when you make comments like this. They like, well, if you think he's such a good catch, why don't you get with him? You get that, but I'm not going to get too far into that. And it started to make me think about what a lot of the guys in the Passport Bro space have been talking about, having encountered, like even going to these countries where there is um, a income, you know, a large income discrepancy. You would think that um, you coming from America and your earning potential is at least 3 to 4 times of what the average person in a lot of these countries guys travel to seek relationships. you would think that since women naturally want men to make substantially more money, and if he's 3 to 4 times can bring 3 to 4 times more than most men in that particular country, you would think that you would get a certain reception as like celebrities do in the United States, for example. And it was like that, you know, I would say, maybe 10 years ago. It was like that. You hear stories of, you know, you go to Thailand, DR, even Colombia, like the reception was like celebrity status, you know, and it's understandable. You're rare in a sense of they don't see or have access to men like you a lot. And so for them, it's rare and it's like, okay, it's an opportunity and things like that. But once it gets to a point where you're no longer rare and you're the you who you are, what you bring to the table is in abundance now for them. Now it's like, okay, I've seen one, seen them all, so to speak. Um, it's it's something that, in my opinion, all has been affected by social media. Social media has exposed one who really has money, um, and social media has made celebrities or people of high status accessible. So now it's easy for women to really do side by side comparisons. So when I mention about exposed who really has money, more women realize and know that just because you're famous doesn't mean you have money. We've seen a lot of stories of athletes, um, financial situation. You know, you see what Floyd Mayweather is going through. A lot of people finances is put out in front, and now a lot of women are realizing like, well, you know, this dude that works for um, Chase Bank, this banker, you know, he makes just as much money as some of these actors or R&B singers. So now they're looking at these celebrities like, they side eyeing these celebrities like, you really, you know, you 1 gig away from not being able to maintain this certain lifestyle. And you have to think. I mean, you have to, and I have to uh, even realize like, being in a position where I could make, you know, low six figures year in and year out. A lot of entertainers, they have to make $100,000 a year. They have to get at least, let's say 10,000 a show 10 times to make 100,000, and some not even getting 10,000 of performers. It may be 5,000, it may be 2,500. So they have to get a lot of motion to even gross, a hundred thousand. Um, it's a lot of stories like that. Faison Love, people surprised like, man, he ain't got no money like that. It's another comedian. I can't think of his name right now. But that, social media has made a way for people to gossip, react to situations that they see in the news, whereas we wouldn't have got all those detailed informations from like mainstream platforms. Also, who really has money? That's why a lot of women now or was asking for people's Instagram because they want to judge you based on where you are, what you wearing, how you present yourself. And when it comes to the travel space, I think that women realize that in a lot of these countries that obviously Americans are not the only ones that have money. There are Americans that don't really have money like that. So they're learning how to judge. They're learning how to see things. You guys got to pay attention. You video chat with a woman on WhatsApp. This could be in the United States anywhere. Like she's looking at your surroundings. Like if you at home and what she can pick up, from like the ambiance, she might get the impression like, okay, he's just a regular person. And they pay attention to a lot of details. And so they know that because they have a lot of data points on social media to do side by side comparisons. Another thing is accessibility. So when I mention accessibility, celebrities, and I'm gonna tie in like celebrities to like passport bro. So like celebrities are more accessible now. Like when I used to live in Houston, Houston was like the first city where I ran into like a lot of celebrities. Like Slim Thug was at the club, dapped him up a couple times at clubs. You go to the Galleria Mall, you're gonna see a lot of known people, just mixed in with like everybody else. There's nothing wrong with that. It makes them more authentic. It makes people it makes people I would say, want to rock with them even more because they don't come off as being like bougie or stuck up. But at the same time, once people get comfortable of seeing you in similar settings that they are, sometimes they take that as like y'all on the same level. And really, and a lot of times you're not. Um, Everybody thinks they on the same level, especially in a black community. Even in a travel space, you can be around, whether you're a content creator or somebody, you could be around people that are very lit on social media. And just because you are in proximity, a lot of people don't appreciate your greatness or what you bring to the table because they're able to be close to you. You know, like, oh, that nigga ain't, he ain't nobody different. He just got, a million. He just a millionaire. But you know, yeah, we are the same when it comes to, you know, God could humble a person at any moment of time. But people are in these positions or this status because they have a level of greatness. They have some level of greatness that you haven't obtained or you don't have. And that's the issue or the disconnect with, people that have this perceived celebrity status where you are actual celebrity or you're an American traveling abroad. Um, we are not the same. We are not the same when it comes to a lot of things. We're not the same, but we have created this illusion as if we are the same. It's like now you have to be on LeBron James status to be considered like inaccessible, for someone to be starstruck, for you to be able to grace their presence. It's very difficult to be in the same room as a person like LeBron James. It's very difficult to be in the same room as Barack Obama or Donald Trump, for any instance. You know, it's still difficult to get in those same rooms. But a lot of other people, a lot of a lot of people are accessible. So what am I getting at? A lot of celebrity men have given too many regular women attention, and I think that's the issue. When you have regular women not appreciating a person that has amassed greatness, that means that you have become too commonplace with her peers. I've never thought today that somebody like Usher would be kind of like, even though he's older, you know, an average woman just kind of like not impressed. And you go to his concert, which is crazy in itself. Um, Chris Brown do the meet and greets, and he got women, you know, paying $1,000 to take a picture with him. Like, so he still has that celebrity effect. I don't see Chris Brown like a very accessible person, but um, a lot of these men be in the same DMs as average men do. I think I mentioned the girl from Thailand that's in a relationship, and they said a celebrity was in her DM. Imagine any chick you talk to, and some celebrity just DM'd her because he thought he was cute. So it's kind of on. A lot of celebrities have ruined their status too. You know, it's nothing wrong with like seeing something you're attracted to and shooting your shot, but when you put yourself in a situation that you look thirsty, because now girls looking like, well, if he thirsting for me, he must not really be all that. You know, imagine if imagine if one of these Instagram models or celebrity chicks was thirsting after regular dudes. You gonna start to think like, well, man, like I'm flattered, but it's like, you know, out of all the options I would have thought you would have had, like you ended up, in my DMs or liking my pics. So so then you kind of, instead of appreciating their greatness, you're gonna look at, why, you're gonna look at like what is up with this person. Are they as of value or high value as I thought they once were? And I think that's probably what's going on in a lot of these countries too. You know, you come from the United States, you appear to be high status, because back in the day, when I first started traveling, like a lot of women didn't really feel like they were worthy of meeting a man from the US like that. You know, they were kind of surprised, like, wow, you find interest in me. They can be, women that work at restaurants or hotels. They may think that because their idea of men of status is they're gonna date within their certain in their class. So a lot of times they're gonna see men with money with their wives, or um, with other women of high status. And so now in these foreign countries, regular chicks that work regular jobs, or women that just live in poverty. You got to think about a lot of these women in countries like Thailand, Dominican Republic, Colombia, in Africa, and I've dated a lot of these women. Like, if you seen their house, like you see tin roofs, you see, um, you know, toilet is no functioning toilet. You gotta get buckets of water to flush the toilet. They're using propane as a source to cook. Um, not really a decent shower. So you making, you know, I'm making $100,000 a year, and I am pursuing a woman that lives, you know, in a home that's just not a home that I would, see myself living in. So those women get attention from men of high status so many times. Now they're not really impressed. Now they're not really impressed no more because we gave those women at that level that's not on our level that attention, and then they don't see our greatness. You know, um, so it is not as much of an issue as being a celebrity or being someone of greatness or being someone of high status, giving attention to someone that is not necessarily on your level. From a socioeconomic standpoint, the bigger issue is that people don't appreciate your greatness, and they look at their self as on the same level, not the same economic level, but they look at themselves as like you are all are the same when it comes to ability. So that's the big issue, you know. And at some point, maybe and maybe not, will they look back at years and be like, wow, I can't believe I rejected this person, or I can't believe you know I can't believe that I thought that this opportunity wasn't a good opportunity, um, which is crazy. It's crazy, especially with this economy right now. It's just like the job market is jobs that people probably have turned down before, this conflict that's going on in the Middle East. And now people is like, man, like that opportunity sound real good right now. Like what was I thinking? You know. So yeah, I'm gonna put this question out. Our passport bros giving too many women who's not on their level attention? Is that an issue? Has social media ruined celebrity status? And how do we get that celebrity status back? How do we get one to appreciate our greatness? Does that mean that passport bros have to seek women more on their level, make themselves less accessible? I mean, it's probably too late now. you know, Now it's at a point where you gotta have that effect LeBron James still has, or that effect um Steph Curry has, or that effect Chris Brown has. And yeah, so I'm gonna be doing a rant that's kind of gonna follow up with this, and it's basically gonna be called "You Are Not Him," or "Are You Him?" 'Cause that's what you're gonna have to be. You're gonna have to be him. But it's your boy No Excuse on today's morning rant. I'm out.